We're back here on the Coach's Cut. Week 2 is in the book, so it's time to hit Week 3. Let's do it. Coach Tice is standing by. The Coach's Cut with Mike Tice starts right now. Thanks for joining us as we get set for Week 3 of NFL action. I'm your host, Mike Davis. Now it's time to meet the star of the show, playing tight end in the NFL for 14 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks, Washington Redskins, and the Minnesota Vikings. This 6'7" former college quarterback went on to become the tight end and offensive line coach for 5 franchises, eventually becoming the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. It's the one, the only, Mike Tice. Great to be with you, Coach. Every week, you're just looking better and better with these suits.
That's my wife, Diane.
Hey, shout out to Diane. Coach, let's start with some Jimmies and Joes. So Thursday Night Football featured an AFC East battle between the Bills and the Dolphins. 31-21, Josh Allen and Buffalo took down Miami. It wasn't a beatdown, yet mistakes, a costly penalty, a turnover sealed the Dolphins' fate. So now the Bills are 3-0, while Miami sits in an 0-3 hole with very little historical chance to reach the playoffs. You'll tell us about that. But the hot seat has never been hotter for Coach Mike McDaniel. As a coach, a former coach, how do you keep hold of a team knowing there's noise surrounding your future and knowing your players might feel like you're not going to be around much longer?
Yeah, it's tough. It really is hard, especially coming off a tough loss with that interception at the end of the game where it looked like they had a chance to tie it up. But you have to be consistent with your message. If you start changing, all right, we're going to move practice up this far. We're going to move the meetings back this much. We're going to shorten the meetings. If you start changing things and start waffling, now that message that you're trying to put out to your players and your staff becomes a little bit diluted.
Okay, so sitting at 0-3, do you think he deserves to be fired? Is there anything he can do to save his job at this point?
Yeah, win a game, win a couple of games. You know, being 0-3 is not traditionally or historically a good place to be. Since 1990, Michael, only 4 of 162 teams that were 0-3 have made the playoffs.
That's insane.
That is insane. And so they have their backs against the wall, as do some of the other 0-2 teams going into this weekend. You know, there's a story that they practiced against the Bears. 2 of their starting linebackers got into a fist fight, the Dolphins starting linebackers. And I think it was over not practicing hard enough. It's the same kind of message you hear Ben Johnson talk about the Bears last week after the game. We're not practicing like a championship team. And so you got to get your players to put out during practice because the 6 Ps, Mike. Perfect practice prevents piss poor performance. And
Say that one more time for us.
I don't know if I can.
6 Ps. All right, I'm going to work on that. Now let's move over to quarterbacks because it seems as if the quarterback position coach is more banged up than usual. In Week 3, 5 backup QBs are set to start. We got Justin Fields with the Jets. He's dealing with a concussion. Jaden Daniels potentially out for the Commanders with a knee injury. J.J. McCarthy of the Vikings out with an ankle injury. Brock Purdy of the Niners out with turf toe, and perhaps the biggest blow of all, the Bengals' Joe Burrow expected to miss 3 months or more with a toe injury as he's undergoing surgery this weekend. So I'm curious, Coach, when a backup quarterback has to become the starter for a team, just how much does that impact the team, and did you ever have to encounter that yourself as a head coach?
We did encounter that in 2005 when Dante Culpepper got injured for the season playing Carolina. We fortunately had a veteran backup quarterback in a fella named Brad Johnson.
Okay.
Well, Brad Johnson came in and he whipped off 6 straight victories for us, and he ended up going 7-2 the rest of the season. We went 9-7 that year, but we did not make the playoffs, and then that's why I'm here today. But
I'm happy to have you here.
Yeah, well, you know, it's tough, but you have to make sure you play within the talent level. So whoever your backup quarterback is, and there's a whole bunch of them out there this week, you got to make sure you're not trying to do things you were doing with Joe Burrow. You're trying to make sure you're not trying to do things you were doing with Jaden Daniels, for example. So it's tough, but the other guys have to step up.
Yeah, you got to know who your personnel is. And I mean, listen, Brad Johnson, Super Bowl winning starting quarterback. Of course, he doesn't have Culpepper's arm, but still, he's a good backup. Now, out of all the backups we do have this weekend, who has the best chance, you think, to win, not only this week, but just moving forward?
Well, Mac Jones is already 1-0.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
Browning has done this the last 2 seasons, the start of last year and
Yeah.
the end of the year before. He didn't, they won the game, but he had 3 picks. He's got to make sure he gets down. Here I go again with those turnovers, right? He's got to keep his turnovers down. So I would have to say it's 2 of the guys that have done this before, and that's Mac Jones and of course, like I said, Jake Browning from the University of Washington. I think they have the best chance of moving forward and winning some games. Jake has to, because he's the guy.
And they both have the best weapons, probably out of all these backup QBs as well. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You got a lot of different guys.
Well, Carson Wentz will have some more weapons when Addison comes back.
Right.
He does have Justin Jefferson, but when Addison comes back from a suspension, he'll have some weapons, and he's a veteran guy, too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, guys, we're just getting started here on the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. Next up, Coach Tice is reconnecting with one of his old players, a guy he drafted who's now a big-time TV star.
I'm very fortunate to have one of my guys with us this week. In 2003, we had drafted Kevin Williams in the first round, E.J. Henderson in the second round, and we needed a return receiver, and it had to be a return receiver. And there was this guy from little UNR in Reno that caught 138 balls. And I remember going to Randy Moss and saying, Randy, guys are talking about it's a smaller school, but this kid has caught 138 passes. And Randy looked at me and said, Coach, it doesn't matter if it's high school, college, pros, 138 balls is 138 balls. And I went back to our scouts. I went back to Scott Studwell. I went back to Frankie Gilliam, and I said, we got to get this Burleson kid. I said, not only is he a natural and a great athlete, he also one day is going to be host of Hollywood Squares. So my guy, host of CBS Mornings, love it. Saw you this morning with the older gals, the grannies. NFL Today, Slime Time, and his daughter Mia contributes on Slime Time. My man, Nate Burleson. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great now that I'm talking to you. Listen, that was a fantastic intro. You might be coming from my job, Coach. So just take it easy, man. You're too good in front of the microphone. You always have been. But let me say this: while I have this opportunity in this stage, I know we're going to talk some football, but I have given the same answer every time somebody asks me about my time in the league and my favorite coach. You are the best coach that I've had, and it's X's and O's, but it's also off the field as well. And when I talk about what you mean to me over the course of my life, it was not that you taught me just how to be a better football player, which is what I learned under your tutelage, but it was also how much you invested in wanting to get to know guys. And that's the main thing that I continually tell people about you and how you ran your teams. And that's why you'll forever be close to my heart. I don't look at you like a coach. I look at you like family. So it's so good to talk to you. I love you deeply. I'm excited to see you.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on, chopping it up with me a little bit. In fact, you're the one that taught me that chopping up thing a couple of years ago. I had to look it up after you said that. Let's talk about surprise teams, good or bad. Surprise teams. I know I have my list. I'm anxious to hear your list and from all the input you're getting from everybody. And all the information you're getting. I'm interested to see and listen to your surprise teams.
I'll go with a couple of surprise teams right off the top. A 2-0 squad that, because of the circumstances at quarterback, you might not have seen this coming. The Indianapolis Colts with Daniel Jones. Yeah. It's the perfect example of preparation meeting opportunity. We know that Anthony Richardson, this young, talented, gifted guy, was supposed to start this year. And after a rookie season of trying to figure out who he was as the QB, he got banged up again. And here comes Daniel Jones. And I remember when that news was announced, there was nobody clamoring for Daniel Jones. There wasn't no bottom ticker of excitement. People were like, oh, it's Daniel Jones. Oh, I forgot Daniel's with the Colts. And then Daniel shows up. And not only shows up, shows out. That first game was unbelievable. And it's funny because, sometimes you'll look at a quarterback in a system and you'll judge that guy. And then that same quarterback, whether it's due to, trial and error, having the right coach, the right system, or just having that freedom of playing and understanding, all right, I can play with house money now. They play differently. And Daniel Jones within this offense, playing free, understanding, here I am at number 2. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I might as well use my skill sets, let the ball fly. And I just like what they're doing. And I don't think this is something that's going to stop anytime soon. You got a quarterback that we know is athletic. And I like it when quarterbacks have gone through some things, and players in general. When you go through the highs and lows, the successes, the failures, the criticism, the money, all of the doubt, it almost allows you to like take the chains of all of the eyes in the media off of you. Prime example, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was in New York, tough market, and they wore him out. Every single week they were talking about this young man. Then he bounces around to a couple of teams, lands in Minnesota. He's like, all right, listen, they got J.J. McCarthy. So, like, the reality is I might as well play free football. And that was his best season. So I feel like Daniel Jones might be in the same situation. Now, on the flip side, a surprise that I think is really catching everybody off guard is the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this isn't a knock towards Andy Reid or the team that they're playing with as far as the roster. We got to understand there are some pass catchers that are down, and Patrick Mahomes loves to grip it and rip it. So you'll get some guys back on the field. But then on top of that, it's not necessarily a direct shot at KC. It's more of an acknowledgement. The competition has gotten better. Like, quarterbacks have improved. Those are the two teams that stand out as far as surprises.
To watch the full interview with Nate, go to our YouTube page at Silver State Sports.
All right, after the break, Coach Tice and I are taking a closer look at the Raiders game versus the Commanders, what the Silver and Black need to do to win Week 3. All right, welcome back to the Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. Mike Davis here with you. So Week 2 was a big change for the Raiders as they failed to get anything going on the offensive side of the ball, losing 20-9 at home on Monday Night Football versus the Chargers. So, Coach, tell us, why did they lose this critical game?
Well, we talked about 3 things last week they had to do. We said run the ball efficiently. They did not do that, and they have not done that. The Raiders are 31st in the league in rushing yards. We did hear Pete talk about it in his press conference. We need to get Ashton going. I think they'll, work on that this week. Get after Justin Herbert. Well, Justin made so many plays outside the pocket. He also ran 9 times for 31 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, 242 yards.
Yeah.
He's a good player right now. He's in a groove, and
he's looking the best we've maybe ever seen him in his career.
Very confident, and I think that has something to do with playing for Coach Harbaugh. And the last thing was create explosives. Coming off that 20-plus yard passing game in the opener up in New England, they come back this week and they just have a couple of explosive plays, and that's 10-yard runs and 20-yard passes. Not good enough.
Yeah, just a tale of 2 different games. So, Week 2 is in the past, so let's move on to Week 3. To win this week against the Commanders, what are the 3 things the Raiders need to do? Well,
I'm going to start getting, a little bit repetitious here, but they've got to run the ball more effectively, more efficiently, and more often. That's number 1. They got to get the run game going and give that offensive line a little help in the passing game. They got to create turnovers. Right now, they're in the minus in my turnover differential.
Dude, that's your baby.
That's my baby, and that's not going to help you win. So they got to come out of this week on the plus side of the turnover ratio. And again, they got to create those chunk plays. They got to create. I'd like to see, a half dozen 10-yard runs this week where they get that run game going and get that play action going. That's what I'd like to see. They got a couple game wreckers on the offensive side of the ball, and Deebo Samuels, and of course Terry McLaurin, who just signed a big extension. Those 2 guys are going to have to be dealt with defensively. But they just got to get it going, get a little rhythm
Yeah,
going.
I mean, a big opportunity, of course, if Jaden Daniels doesn't play and it's Mariota, that would be helpful for the Raiders. But, Coach, let me ask you this. Your forte, you were an offensive line coach for many years, a blocking tight end. What's going on with the offensive line here? Because I'm not a former head coach, but it doesn't take a former head coach to see something's not gelling with this O-line.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Mike. I think part of the problem is it goes to the run game. They got to run the ball more and help this offensive line get together and play cohesively, because right now what I'm seeing is a little bit of issue with games and stunts where they're turning guys free.
What's a stunt?
A stunt is when two defensive linemen crisscross, basically.
Okay.
And so now what happens if they don't pass the stunt off properly, that guy gets edgy and gets in the quarterback's face and causes him to not be able to follow through, or causes him vision issues, or he takes a big hit. So they got to get that protection cleaned up a little bit. But I think it all goes back to what we said a couple seconds ago. It starts with that run game.
Yeah. Is preparing for stunts, is that something that's more technique-based and dependent, or more coaching dependent?
It's both. It's awareness. You know, you have to understand alignments. When a guy tightens down, which way is he going? He's going to where he tightens down to. There's always a penetrator. And then once the guy penetrates, the other defensive lineman comes off his hip, and that's what a stunt is. If they're not passing off the stunts correctly or aggressively, now it gets leaky.
It's confusion. Okay,
And
it's almost like a pick in basketball.
Exactly.
You got to know when to switch.
That's exactly
It's
what
kind
it
of interesting. Last thing here. So you're also saying if the offensive line, we know it's not the Lions' offensive line, it's not the Philadelphia Eagles' offensive line, but if you commit to the run game, it's in turn going to help your offensive line. Is that true?
It's totally true, because play action doesn't work if you're not running the ball. It's kind of like the defense chuckles at you and says, why are you play actioning me? There must be a pass, because you're not running the ball enough.
Okay.
So I think it all starts with the run game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you think after drafting Ashton Genty 6th overall, you'd commit to the run game a little bit more. So we're hoping to see that. But guys, don't go anywhere. It's time for Odds and Ends when we return. It's our favorite part of the show. All right, welcome back to Coach's Cut with Mike Tice, Mike Davis here. So it's time for Odds and Ends, Coach. This is when you give us those nuggets that you love, and we love our nuggets. So, Coach, let's start with your baby. It's the turnover ratio, the turnover differential. That's your favorite thing. Give us an update around the league on what that's looking like.
Yeah, it's holding true to form. So after week 2, after 2 weeks, +1 teams, that means they have one more takeaway than they have turnovers, are 22-8.
Wow.
And the Colts lead the league with a +4
Interesting.
Very interesting. And this is going to play out as the season goes.
And that's a team, a lot of people weren't high on them, but you see, if you're winning that turnover differential, it can do well with your record.
Now, the -1 teams, Michael, are, or worse, are 4-18 after 2 weeks. And the worst team in the league, and I'm taking into account last night, are the Dolphins at -5.
Okay.
And there's a reason why they looked a little better last night, but there's a reason why you don't look good if you're turning the ball over all the time.
Yeah, a lot of costly mistakes.
And then the even teams, 2 weeks in a row. This probably won't hold exactly like this, but if you have a 0, meaning you get one and give one, or give none and take none away, are at 6-6 after 2 games.
All right.
So
okay. So
500 ball.
that.
And that'll stay true at the end of the season. That'll be about a 500
We're going to keep an
team.
eye on that all season long. Now, Coach, you know I'm a Philly guy.
Yep.
This matchup that stands out this week for week 3, 2-0 teams colliding. Of course, the Eagles and the Rams, a rematch from the divisional playoffs last year, a classic game. Who do you like in this game and why? I'm hoping it's my Birds.
Well, Michael, let's start with what hurt the Rams in the playoffs was Barkley busting out a 78 and a 62-yard touchdown. Now you got Chris Shula, defensive coordinator, son of David Shula, Don Shula's son, who used to be the head coach of the Bengals. He has got to play the game like this if you're the Rams. You have got to stop the run. Eagles do not have a touchdown pass. The Eagles have the least amount of passing yards in the league. So if you're a Ram fan and you're a Ram coach, you have to stop the run and make them throw the ball. The Rams have 8 sacks already in 2 weeks, so they can get after the quarterback. So It's going to be a great game, but I think those are the keys to winning for the Rams. On the other side, the Eagles, if they can't run the football effectively, they need to be able to throw the ball. And A.J. Brown, if he doesn't start catching some passes, he's going to get a little moody.
We already know that.
We already know that. Or he could read a book. Or he could read a book on the sideline.
Or he could read it. That's the other thing. All right. Crazy thing here, though, Coach. So I love him. The Rams head coach, Sean McVay, he tore his plantar fascia last week while coaching during the Titans game on Sunday. You see him there. He's the youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl, and he seems fine. He's going to be out there on the sideline, but crazy as a coach doing something like that, tearing his plantar fascia during the game. Did something like that ever happen to you on the sideline?
You're setting me up on this one. So in 2005, we went to New York.
Yeah.
I was turned and I was pointing out something on a Polaroid, on a picture, and I got wiped out during the special teams play. I ended up tearing both. I didn't know you had two MCLs. I ended up tearing both MCLs. The only knee injury.
Look at that photo.
That's me laying on the ground.
Oh my God!
But my guys kept coming to me because they knew I was in pain. You took an injection. I knew I was in pain. Put a knee sleeve on. Sucked it up. Taped an aspirin to it, as we say. And my guys said, "We got you back. We got you back." They went out and did that. We won the game 24-21, but we set a record. They returned an interception for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, and a punt for a touchdown, and that's how we won the game. We weren't very good on offense, but we won the game. The guy said, "We got your back," and they certainly did have my back.
Oh my God, they had your back, and we have your back here. That's why we made sure to show that photo of you getting tossed around on the sideline right there. Listen, it's Coach Tice. I'm Mike Davis. That's it for this edition of Coach's Cut with Mike Tice. For producer James and editor Jess, I'm Mike Davis. We'll see you next time. Enjoy week 3. And can I say go Birds?
Yeah.
Go Birds. All right, we'll see you guys next time.